Good morning. Thanks for tuning in. You're watching the F&O Show on Bloomberg Quint Live, India's first digital live streaming business news service. I'm Navneet Saluja D'Souza.
Good morning, Navneet. I'm Agam Vakil. Let's take a look at the headlines. Indian markets are off to days high with this morning. The Nifty trades around the 10,850 and the auto stocks remain the top laggards. The stocks like Mindtree and Kajaria Ceramics are seeing a rise in open interest. Both are witnessing fresh long positions. Britannia is the top loser on the Nifty after Credit Suisse downgraded the stock, citing weak macros resulting in a subdued FY20. And Bajaj Finance is among the top gainers on the Nifty after its boards approved raising 8,500 crore rupees through a QIP.
Okay, those are the top headlines for you at this hour. Let's also tell you what's happening with the markets. We did snap the two-day losing streak, but we're off the opening levels once again, which is telling you at higher levels probably there are more short positions being created. And as we speak, Nifty has given up all its gains. In fact, the opening high today was somewhere about 10,885. So we are off nearly 50 to 60 points from those opening levels. Sensex also off the day's opening levels, and Bank Nifty has given up all the gains, where the high of the day was about 27,414, and currently the index is trading at around levels of 27,166. So yesterday there was an immense selling pressure which was seen, but I think with Nifty, Bank Nifty giving up their opening gains, let's just have a look at what the broader markets have been doing, because the selling was seen across the board yesterday. Last when I checked, the market breadth at least was in favor of the advances today. That's the Nifty futures on your screen. Yes, I think even the broader markets are giving up gains. So everything across the board is succumbing to selling pressure, and advance decline still seems to be in favor of the advances. All right, so let's just pull up the futures and check if there is any sort of action seen. With yesterday's 180-point fall on Nifty, there was no major open interest seen, and as of now, the open interest build up on Nifty futures is just about 1%. Pull up Bank Nifty as well. Both these indices breached the 20 DMA yesterday and closed below that. More action seen on Bank Nifty, but important to see because these could be just intraday positions also, which get unwound during the day. The volatility has cooled off after spiking almost 14% in last 2 days. 15.96 is where India Volatility Index is trading. And if you look at the options picture, the put-call ratio is indicating we could be in an oversold zone because it's below the mark of 1. And that's the open interest distribution for this Thursday's expiry, which is scheduled for tomorrow. Maximum open interest on the call side is at 11,000 and on the put side at about 10,800. And once again in today's session, I believe we are seeing more of OI addition coming in on the call side. The 11,000 and the 10,900 strikes, even the 11,100 out of the money strikes are being written, whereas on the put side, 10,800 has seen majority of the open interest addition so far. And talking about FIs, we've been highlighting how they've been net short on the derivatives market right from the time we started the series, especially on the index futures side. But Agam, importantly, just looking at the data, last 2 days there was heightened activity seen on the option side. Could be due to weekly expiry scheduled for tomorrow, but there were more short bets via writing calls and buying more of puts.
Right. Well, absolutely. Let's take a look at stocks which are buzzing in trade today in the futures and options space, and perhaps we can find out where there is enough amount of traction in terms of stocks which are looking at gains in open interest. We have Kajaria Ceramics, which is looking at longs, 21% added in open interest. NIT Technology is looking at weakness, as is the case for Mindtree. Mindtree is advancing by around 2%. So, we have mixed moves coming in from those two stocks. We have Just Dial, along with Escorts, which isn't really moving too much. Neither of them moving too much, but there is an accumulation of around 8.5% in OI for both of them. Let's take a look at those stocks which are seeing unwinding in trade today. And besides Raymond, which is looking at a decline of around 4% in open interest, there isn't much to talk about otherwise. So a handful of stocks out there to watch out for, but besides that, what else are we talking about, Navneet?
Well, on the show today, Agam, we will be discussing 3 stocks where both price as well as open interest action has been seen. And as you already highlighted, Kajaria Ceramics, that stock's been trading around its 200-day moving average. It's up for the 5th straight day. And even on year-to-date basis, it's given you some returns of 9%. And Bajaj Finance, being one of the top gainers in Nifty, is also the stock which has given you maximum returns among the Nifty constituents so far this calendar year. We'll talk about that. And Britannia is the top loser after Credit Suisse has downgraded this counter and also cut down the target price.
Okay, well, there you have it. Those are some of the stocks that we are addressing today, and it is time to get our experts in for today. But before that, here's your reminder. If you have any queries regarding futures and options markets, you can call us on 022-454-04141, or, of course, write to us on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube with the AskBQ hashtag. Let's get in our experts then. We have Mr. K. Subramanyam of Altamount Capital joining us on the show. And of course, we will have Rahul of Motilal's Oswal Securities joining us in just a bit. But for now, Mr. Subramanyam, how do we go about the indices now? What's your view here?
Yeah, morning, Agam. I think we are now very critically poised. All the gains that we saw last week have been shared in just a couple of sessions, and volatility obviously the name of the game right now. And 10,750, 800 again becomes a very critical support level for the Nifty. And Bank Nifty, of course, has probably looking much more weaker. And interestingly, the ones which were lending support, they are the ones which are now looking weak, like so HDFC Bank, Axis Bank, so basically the private sector banks, ICICI Bank. So all these counters are now putting a lot of pressure on the Bank Nifty. So I think today's could be pretty critical day in the terms of whether the bulls can actually somehow salvage the situation. But I'm going with the trend, so giving a Bank Nifty bear spread, wherein recommending buying of a 27,200 strike put, and also selling, recommending a selling of 26,700 strike put. So net cost comes to about 170, keeping maximum gains of 330 and keeping a stop loss of 80. Tomorrow's expiry, so we could have some volatility. So doing a bear spread just might help us in cushioning some of the premium cost, and also try to see if we can get some gains on the downside.
All right, so that's a bear spread being recommended on Nifty Bank. Buy 27,200 call and sell 26,700 put. For all our viewers who don't know about this strategy, a bear spread is employed when one expects a moderate down move in a security, and in this strategy, a put option of a certain strike is purchased and a put option of a lower strike is simultaneously sold. And pardon me, both the strikes were on the put side, which Mr. Subramanyam has recommended. Mr. Subramanyam, that's about the index strategy, but anything on the stock future side that you're recommending in trade this morning?
Yeah, so the weak spots in this markets have been, of course, I think overall everything has been weak, but I think banking and metals have seen some pretty savage selling. So I'm recommending buying of a 195 strike put in Hindalco. I think that's quoting at around 3 to 4 rupees. Keeping a target of 10, and one could keep a stop loss of 2. And as I mentioned earlier, the private sector banking clearly putting the pressure on the Bank Nifty. I mean, basically the capitulation of the leaders is what we are seeing right now. So recommending of again 400 strike put of ICICI Bank, that's quoting at around 5, and keeping a target of 10, and maybe one could keep a stop loss of 2.
Okay, well, that's as far as your stock calls are concerned. Let's address some of those, stocks that we wanted to talk about too as well. And I'm going to start with something like a Britannia Industries. Well, on the whole, of course, we've seen a downgrade come through from a brokerage where Credit Suisse has downgraded the stock and also cut its price target largely on account of fears that there could be some more pain in store. There could be some more pain in store for Britannia, considering the current macros, which is why this one is down around 3%. There is some amount of selling coming through. And, as of course, we all know about the kind of weakness that we've seen on the last 1 year. But if you notice, the month of August and September, there was some gains after the company or after the stock had moved below the mark of 2,500. It's gained since then. But the real question is, where do we go from here? And one, would you buy into this correction, or would you sell into it, or would you not do anything? Mr. Subramanyam, this one's for you. Your view on Britannia Industries.
See, today I think it's cracked the some very important support levels of I think closer to 2,600, and this stock has of late been showing some weakness, And I think I would still probably wait it out and not really jump and buy into this stock. And it's probably could test its a very recent low of I think around uh, 2300 thereabouts. So we are not very far off from there. I mean, couple of percentage points. I mean, we could be there. But going by the weakness that we profit selling that we are seeing in profiting that we are seeing in the counter, odds are high that we should see that level also of 2300 also getting breached on the downside. So I'll probably wait it out and see some lower levels where one could do some sort of bargain and hunting.
Okay, Britannia falls after Credit Suisse downgrades the stock to neutral and also cuts the target price to 27.50. All right, we've got Rahul also joining us from Motilal. Hi Rahul, good morning to you. And as we speak, the gains that we saw in the opening session have been given, and Nifty is now trading in the red, which tells you that the pullback is used to create some short positions even at higher levels. Would you take any bet on Nifty or in Bank Nifty ahead of the weekly options expiry tomorrow?
Hi, good morning. I think where the markets have been, I think yesterday again the near-term indicators indicates that I think the short-term again there could be some more pain, and after yesterday's fall the near-term support for the Nifty was 10,935 which broke and so on and on. So it looks like there could be some more bearishness in the street for next few sessions. So I would advise buying at 10,700 put of the 26th September expiry, which is I think around 52, 53 or odd levels. Keep a stop loss of 38. I think it can go to 80 or odd levels.
Okay, Rahul, what about stock ideas for today?
I think interestingly, if you notice, a lot of shorts built up in stocks and yesterday's trades. So top of mind, I think JSW Steel, we saw some kind of good short built up in the stock yesterday post afternoon, and I think there could be some more pain still in the entire metal pack. So I feel JSW Steel could be a good short from the current levels. Keep a stop loss of 221 and target of 210. That's one of my ideas. Second one is I think HDFC Limited. I think yesterday after a long time the stock has given a negative breakout, and I think on a lower side I think it can still there'll be more pain in the HDFC Limited. So I think I will go short on HDFC Limited with a stop loss of 2030 and target of 1940.
Okay, so those are two short ideas coming from Rahul, and the heavyweight HDFC we've been highlighting today. It's down for the third straight day. The first 2 days, that's Monday and Tuesday, there was majority of long unwinding seen in this counter. Let's see, it's already breached the mark of 2,000 as we speak. All right, let's get to the stocks that we wanted to discuss. Already discussed Britannia with Mr. Subramanyam. Kajaria Ceramics is the other one, which has been bucking the trend, especially in the last 2 days when the markets have been falling. So today also it's marginally in the green, and there's a lot of open interest build up that has been seen. So that's up about 20%. The stock's up for fifth straight day. If possible, can we just pull up the intraday chart? I think it did open with some bit of gains. It's giving up those gains now from the opening levels. Yes, it's almost at the lowest point of the day. In fact, the stock has been trading around its 200-day moving average. Rahul, I'm going to come back to you on Kajaria Ceramics. Considering the move that we've been seeing for the last 4 to 5 sessions, is there any position that you would recommend taking?
I think mid-cap stocks, I think they are under pressure, and same as case with Kajaria. So I don't think so major action to be taken, at least definitely not for the long side. So I would feel it feels like that I think stock has got a resistance at 537 or odd levels. So I think I would short the stock with a stop loss of 537 of target of 520.
Okay, and from there on, let's also talk about Bajaj Finance, because of course one of those stocks which are advancing after, from what we understand, it is going to carry out a QIP to raise funds worth 8,500, which is crores rupees, which is why it's up to 2.3%. It's trying to inch back towards the mark of 3,500, but of course a good 50 points away from there. That of course is your gains over the last 12 months. It's up around 34%. One of those stocks where it would be hard for you to sell. That said, well, these are pretty volatile times, so you never know. So, Mr. Subramanyam, I come to you on Bajaj Finance. Levels to watch out for. Would you go long, short, or avoid?
Agam, I would definitely be cautious on this counter as well. Nevertheless, it has been seen an incredible run in the last few years and has been a broadly an outperformer. But going with the weakness in the market, and we have already seen the likes of HDFC Bank cracking under pressure. So I think this counter also around 3500 could, that's where the resistance lies. So I would definitely be a bit cautious and not try to rush in and enter the counter perceiving some sort of strength. So I would probably, if anybody has this, maybe one could even look to hedge the position and maybe buy a 3400 strike put on the downside. So I think better to be cautious rather than be brave in this counter.
Okay, that's Bajaj Finance for you, up about 2.5% in trade. And Rahul had given a short call on JSW Steel. We've got Mr. D.N. Bhattacharya on YouTube writing to us. He wants a view on Tata Steel. So Rahul, I'm going to come to you. You've recommended creating a short position on JSW Steel, but overall the entire metal space has been weak. So would you also look at something like Tata Steel at current levels to create a short position?
I think, again, looking at the overall metal packs, looks weak, and Tata Steel's, I think, risk to reward, I think, doesn't look like that one should initiate a short, but I think the weakness will on the stock will be below 339 or odd levels. So I think the structure looks okay for Tata Steel. So I think risk to reward will not be favorable going short in Tata Steel. So I would avoid shorting Tata Steel at this juncture.
Okay, well, that's your view on Tata Steel. I want to bring up UPL as well because that is also one of the larger laggards when it comes to the indices. That's also looking at a 3% decline for now and a 3% increase in open interest. So there is some weakness which is coming back. Can we have the chart for UPL over the past 3 months? It could give you a better idea about its near-term trend, which is down. Actually, this is your intraday move, but I want to talk about the 3 months. Yeah, so there you have it. That's down 17% over the last 3 months. There has been weakness, there's no doubt about it, but over the past few weeks, it tried to move back from levels of around 500 to now currently at a 546. Of course, at one point in time, it did move gain as much as 10% in this period, but on the whole, it's not looking like something that would have been bought into, clearly. Rahul, I come back to you on UPL, United Erstwhile Phosphorus. What's your view on this one? How would you address this?
I think UPL, looking at the structure, definitely looks weak. I don't think so. A major upside is there in the stock. And today's session, if I look at, there's shorts built up also on the stocks. So I think near term, the stock has got a support at 530 and the resistance at 556. So I think looking at it, risk to reward could be favorable again, shorting the stock where the markets are right now. So I would avoid, I would not go long, but go short in the stock at current levels.
Okay, that's UPL for you, down almost 3% in trade. A couple of these mid-cap IT companies are doing well today, from the likes of Mindtree as well as Hexaware. So both are actually your top F&O gainers also as we speak. Hexaware is up about 4% in trade and Mindtree is up about 2.5%. Mr. Subramanyam, IT as a pack relatively has been an outperformer, but that's for the larger cap companies like Infi and TCS, which have given you good returns so far this year. Would you look at something like Hexaware and Mindtree? Looking at today's move, is there any trade that is warranted here?
Well, Mindtree surprisingly does not look as strong as some of the leaders in this pack. The leader, like of TCS or Infi. In fact, it's been in a very narrow range after a pretty sharp breakdown. So Mindtree would not be on my list, but yeah, Hexaware has been a relative outperformer, but again, difficult to take a call on this also because we are seeing some pretty decent buying coming about closer to levels of 350 thereabouts, but at the same time on the upside seems to be facing resistance of 400. So I would be a bit neutral and probably not take a call in either of these counters.
Since we've been talking about the mid-cap ID pack, let me also address NIT Tech, which has been down at least today is the third straight day where we've seen some selling pressure coming about. But we highlighted earlier also when we started the series, the NIT Tech futures were trading at a 10% discount to its cash price. Now, as we speak, the futures have turned into premium, and we've seen both the futures as well as the cash price now converging. Rahul, if you've been tracking this one, when we started the series, the futures were at a 10% discount, and now that they've converged, is there any sort of trade that you would recommend on this counter?
I think the best strategy is NIT Tech is bar and decline strategy has always worked very well on the stock. Now, if I look at the overall technical perspective, the stock has got a good support of 1315 on the charts, and looks like there could be a good support over that leg. So with that stop loss, looking at the current situations, IT can outperform in current situations. So I would go long in NIT Tech with a stop loss of 1315, and the stock can go to again back to 1420 or odd levels.
Okay, well, from there on, we move on and take another query, and this one is from Nilesh Sharma on YouTube. It's on Mahindra and Mahindra. He says he's long. He's bought the 530 put of M&M, and he wants levels and a target for this expiry. So he is likely making some amount of profit, if I'm not mistaken, considering it is currently at 525. That said, Mr. Subramanyam, your view on M&M firstly, that's one question. Secondly, what would you do with the 530 put? Should you have been long on it? And thirdly, if you didn't want to, perhaps just leave it as a naked long, is there any way by which you can hedge this position?
Well, M&M again perched at a very, very critical level, 520, 510. These are levels which need to be supported. For it, any uptrend obviously I think could be arrested closer to levels of 540 thereabouts. So odds are still high that this will probably again proceed downwards. So considering the fact that he has bought a put, only that is a big event. I think the GST meeting is there, and probably we could see some volatility in this counter. So any downside that we see on the counter today probably could take advantage and maybe just book some profits. Else you could also sell maybe some out of the money put. Maybe if you could choose a 480 strike put, thereabouts 490 strike put if the liquidity permits. I think that would be a better strategy rather than keeping a naked put. And if you see in the money, and if it is showing some weakness today, whatever slender profits, I would prefer to book profits rather than take this chance of the counter showing volatility and the premium shrinking fast.
Okay, that's M&M for you. Let's also pull up Arvind. That counter was quite active in yesterday's session. We did see registering some gains in the falling market, but today there is some profit booking which is coming, and not only that, it snapped the 8-day winning streak, and the futures are seeing some bit of OI addition as well. Rahul, Arvind on year-to-date basis has been an underperformer. I think the stock's down about 40%. In last 7 days, there is some traction seen where the majority of the gains have come by. Looking at the recent action in this stock, has it bottomed out? Would you recommend taking any position now on the upside, or the move that we've seen in the last 7 to 8 days is just a dead cat bounce?
I think it looks like as a dead cat bounce. I think overall upper end limit, upper end remains the capped, and I feel that near term the stock can still underperform. The stock is in a range of I think 51.50 on a lower side and a higher side 56. So I think does not make sense going long from current levels, but shorting also does not give any major downside from here. So I think one should just avoid for a while.
Okay, well, we have plenty of queries on Ashok Leyland as well of late, because, psychologically, the 60 rupee mark was an important one, and a lot of traders and investors were keeping an eye on that one. But today, it's clearly down. It's currently at 58.5. It's down 2.5% with an increase in open interest. Mr. Subramanyam, what would you advise traders to do with Ashok Leyland now, and what levels would you be asking them to keep an eye on?
Well, Agam, as you mentioned, I think the 60 is now clearly proving to be a level which could crack on the downside, and one has to be a bit cautious. So at the current juncture, probably anybody having a long position on the stock probably could look to cut their losses and exit, and or maybe buy a put and hold the position. But ideally, even taking a short at current juncture, probably I would be a bit wary, because again this counter could show some volatility. It's near term oversold, and we could probably see some bounce. So any bounce coming about closer to levels of maybe 62, 63 could be levels where one could look to initiate some shots.
Okay, that's Ashok Leyland, and today as well, the Nifty Auto Index is your top sectoral loser after tumbling about over 3% yesterday. Some bit of recovery is definitely coming in from the lower levels, but it still remains in the negative territory. Just to revisit the markets, as we highlighted, we've given up the opening gains, indicating some, shots being created at higher levels. And as we speak, Nifty is once again pulled back. So 10,846 is where we're trading in the positive territory, once again up about 27 points. Broader markets also back in the green. VIX has cooled off a bit, but in terms of sectoral indices, Nifty Metals, a beaten down space, has bounced back up 1%. PSU Banking Index is seeing some bit of gains, whereas on the losing side, you've got the autos, media, as well as the pharma indices, which are right now sitting in red. Motherson Sumi, another auto ank, which is trading with cuts of 3%. Dish TV, Eicher Motors, a couple of other F&O losers for the day, whereas NMDC, I think that's at day's high. If you can just pull up the intraday chart of that one, it's sitting with gains of about 3 to 3.5%. Some buying coming in here, and mid-cap IT stocks are something which we've highlighted, and the oil marketing companies, keep an eye on that after cool-offs coming in the crude oil prices overnight, and also some positive commentary from Saudi Minister. BPCL, HPCL, IOC, all of them have bounced back today, and we are seeing some meager gains of about 1 to 2%.
Okay, there you have it. Well, and on that note, I'm going to take a moment to thank both our experts for joining us and taking us through their views on our markets, as well as solving a whole host of our viewer queries. But don't forget, for more updates on the F&O space, you can also check our website, bloombergquint.com, specifically the futures and options pages.
With that, it's a wrap on this edition of the F&O Show. Thanks a lot for watching. For more news and updates, stay tuned to Bloomberg Quint.